In agriculture applications, where do big ceiling fans work or don't work? The best place that they work is when you have enough of headroom and you have bedded pack. If you have those two together, it's a no-brainer. What if you drive around in your barn with the skid loader booms up the whole way? Should you be concerned about if you're going to put a fan in? Actually, you should be. If you're going to have your booms way up in the air, or if you're loading a manure spreader inside and you have open trusses, we have some real shallow mount fans where you can run the blades about 9 inches away from the ceiling. If you do that, you need to put like a bumper guard of, we often use 2x4s, but put a bumper guard around them so that if the blades flex up, they don't catch. If there's ever a really nasty gust, the blades towards coming into the wind are going to flex up, and that will bite into the truss and either break the truss or break the fan blade loose. Where would a shallow fan not work? It won't work if you're just way too low, or if you have a ceiling in, a shallow mount's a bad idea, because you still need air to get into the blades. So we recommend that about, at the minimum, a 10% of the diameter. So a 20-foot fan, a minimum of 2 foot for the air to get in. Because if you don't have that much, what you're going to run into, it's going to get gusty. That's when your blades are too close to the ceiling and there's not enough room for the air to get in. After you get to half speed or 3/4 speed, you'll notice the air will get gusty. Now that I'm around it a while, I can just feel it right away. Is when you walk up, get off the foof, and that's coming from it making a vacuum, and then the air starts going again, then makes a vacuum and stops. If there's not enough of room for air to get in, the power goes down and the airflow just flatlines. What's the most optimal distance from the fan blades to the ceiling? In the pursuit of total efficiency, you would have them halfway between the ceiling and the floor, because that would be perfect. There would be no more restriction on top or the bottom. If you're Joe Biden and telling the fan industry what to do, they say 40% of the diameter above and 80% under is the official spec where we test them at. What's practical is a minimum of 10%, and we would recommend minimum around 15%. A 20-foot fan, we would recommend about 3 foot of air being able to get into it. What fan is the most efficient? The most efficient fan is probably around our 24 foot, but it really depends with the speed. So as they slow down, they get dramatically more efficient. So we would recommend putting plenty of fans in. That way you don't have to run them completely wide open all the time. So and once you're at 3/4 speed, you're only going to be taking half the electric. When you're at 25% speed, you're going to be using maybe a 1/10 of the full speed. And what that allows you to do is run your fans a lot more and keep your animals healthier year round, because you don't have to just shut them off as it starts cooling off. You can slow them down. You may have bought your fans to get the bedding dried out, and it really does. To use the least amount of bedding possible, number one, you got to have air blowing over it, and number two, you need to have it spread out evenly. If you're struggling with getting it spread out evenly, you might want to consider a bedding spreader. My brother makes skid loader bedding spreaders, and you can drive around in the pen and take that nasty caked up corn fodder. It'll shred it out and make a nice even layer for you. The combination of evenly spread corn fodder and air blowing over it can take your bedding requirements down to 1/3 of what they were before. Instead of bedding once a week, you might be able to go bedding every 3 weeks. We're standing right here in my family farm, and that's about what we found here. It holds out with a lot of other farms. The counter at when would that not hold out is if it was just totally overcrowded and it was really soggy. It would get better, but it wouldn't make it perfect. 3 times longer is an average. So in the summertime, it really cuts down. Wintertime, if you're bedding every day, you can probably go to every 3 days. So what's the process if you're looking at ordering a fan, what's the process? The easiest is if you send us pictures of your barn. So it's really handy, a picture of your barn and the overall dimensions, and then we'll figure out what brackets it would take. When you go online and fill out a quote, or you can just pick up the phone and give us a call, 610-987-0488, and one of us will be happy to help you. And the things we're going to ask is the overall dimensions, how much height do you drive around in there with your skid loader up? Do you have a ceiling? And what voltage of electricity you have? So those handful of things and some pictures will get it nailed down pretty easily.